So what do these plugins and this amplifier have in common? Well, they're both modern recreations of a classic Peavey amp circuit. Now, ML Sound Labs has released their latest chapter of their amp series. That's the Amped block letter, which emulates two versions of that classic Peavey amplifier. And while this is a modern hardware recreation of that same amp circuit. Well, I'm going to show you all the features of the plugin. I'm going to show you some tones. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to shoot out that plugin to see how it fares against a real tube amplifier. Want to hear how that sounds? Well, why don't you join me? So the 5555 is a digital recreation of the original Peavey 5150 block letter, and the 6666 is an emulation of the 6505, which is basically Peavey's 5150. After the Great One took his brand and number to EVH, they continued to make the amplifier pretty much the same, just had to give it a different number. Now, if you are in pursuit of that original 5150 tone, you can pony up for original block letter amp, which isn't cheap these days. You can save a bit of money on the hardware by spending maybe $1,000 or so on the 5150 Iconic on the EVH brand. Or you can save a considerable amount of money and consider the ML Sound Labs Amped, which is going to give you the 5150 and the 6505. Now, by the end of this video, I'm going to get you contemplating where the real value is. So anyways, I want to show you some tones from the plugin. I'm going to share some features, and at the end, I'm going to shoot it out against a tube amp here to see how it fares. So let's check out the plugin in action. Whoa, that tune took a bit of a left turn at the end there. I did need some clean tones to demonstrate. Anyways, the 5150 certainly is popular with the heavy metal crowd. You get real heavy chugging tones. But the truth is, I think it's a far broader and more versatile amplifier than it generally gets credit for. Of course, you got the high gain tones, but you got some great crunch tones and some really chimey clean tones, which is always great to have in a high gain style amplifier. Now, the differences between the 5555 and the 6666 are in the subtleties. I think the 5555 is a little bit tighter on the bottom end. The 6666 seems to be a little bit bigger, a little bit, more in the mid-range, definitely a little more on the bottom end. So if you're looking to get some of those tighter riffs, I think you might want to lean to the 5555, but I think with a little EQ on either amp will probably get you where you need to go. So let's break down some of the tones from that track, and I'll share some of the features of the plugin. So much like other amped plugins, you have your amp section. There are 3 channels modeled for each of the amps in this plugin. For both, you have clean, crunch, and lead channels. Both clean and crunch channels give you a bright switch. For both amps, you have your input, pre-gain, 3-band EQ, post-gain, resonance, presence, and an output. The built-in cab section gives you 2 cabinets, the Mega 4x12 oversized and 91 green. You can stack 2 cabs, and you have 4 microphones to choose from. You can also move the mics around. There's a built-in pedal board with 6 different effects and a built-in tuner. Very handy. So for the main rhythm tone, I'm using the 5555 on the crunch channel. I'm using my Gibson Howard Roberts Fusion. I'm using the humbucker in the bridge position. And of course, I am multi-tracking. The input is set to 5. The bright switch is engaged, and the pre-gain is at 4. The EQ is favoring the highs with a little boost in the mids. Post-gain is at 4. I'm tightening the bottom a bit with the resonance at 3, and the presence is just a notch below 5. On the pedal board, I've got the noise gate on, the compressor at noon, and I'm adding just a touch of reverb. For cabs, I'm blending the oversize and the green. Let's hear this in the mix and isolate it. So I really like that tone. It's really full and punchy with good articulation in the top end. I'm not doing any additional processing outside of the plugin with the exception of just a bit of a roll off on the bottom end. But that ability to be able to tweak the amplifier, you can place your microphones on different cabinets, you've got the pedal board. It just gives you a lot to work with to really shape that tone and get it to fit in the mix with it, like I said, any minimal external processing. All right, let's take a listen to the 6666. Again, I'm using the Howard Roberts with the bridge humbucker. So for this section, I wanted the rhythm guitars to have a bigger dynamic sound, but a little warmer. I'm also using the crunch channel, but this time the bright switch is off. I'm pushing the pre-gain more, rolling off a bit of the lows, but pushing the mids and a bit more highs. Post-gain is also up a little higher, but again, tightening up the bottom with a cut in the resonance. I'm using the same 3 pedals as the last one and the same cabs, but this time I'm using a ribbon mic on the 91 green. And to add a layer to the section, I'm playing this looping riff with the clean channel on the 5555, but driving it with the drive pedal in the pedal board, plus adding some delay and more reverb for effect. I really loved how well those two tones actually worked together. Now the 6666 got that big full sound. We rolled off a little bit, like I said, taking off that bright switch, just give you a creamier, fuller sounding guitar. And then with that loop effect on top, I used the clean channel and then using the drive pedal and the pedal board, just give me a different kind of saturation. They worked really, really nice together. And of course, adding some effects to that loop just gave me another texture. Again, being able to process all of that within one plugin just gives you a lot to work with and makes it a very, very efficient workflow. All right, why don't we take a listen to some clean tones? I got some beautiful chimey cleans with the clean channel on the 5555. The bright switch is on and just a bit of gain. I'm really pushing the mids and the highs, and again emphasizing that with the resonance and presence settings. I'm also pushing the output a bit more. I'm using a touch of compression and some delay and reverb. I'm using the same cabs again, but I brought one of the mics closer to the center cone to bring up some more of the top end. Really, really beautiful. I really like those clean tones. Now you take those bass chords and that synth bass and mix it with those chimey clean tones. Sometimes it almost sounded like a piano. Really, really beautiful. Beautiful articulation. Really sat nicely in the mix. Again, no additional processing. I always say it's a bonus whether you're talking about a real amp or a high gain plugin to get a good clean channel. Just gives you a lot of versatility. And think of the blends you could do as well. Maybe blending some of those cleans with dirty tones. I do that all the time. But these cleans were really, really nice. Really like those. All right, it's time to put your ears to the test and hopefully you'll play at home. I'm going to put this tube amp here, this 5150 Iconic, against the 5555. Now, Funny thing is, ML Sound Labs actually makes a plugin of this exact amplifier. Maybe I should do a video comparing those two. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. But what I did was I got the tones as close as I could, and I only used the plugin to tweak. There's no external processing going on. I'm using the Miko 2 Cab IR, so we have the exact same Cab IR for both tones. And I'm going to show it to you blind, and perhaps you can play in the comments and let me know which one is the tube amp. So, any ideas? I bet this was a lot tougher than you thought. Would love to hear your guesses in the comments as I reveal to you which one is which. So how'd you do? You know something? In a mix, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. I think the real differences to me were really in the experience in recording it. Now, I was looping the same DI'd clip, but playing through a tube amp versus playing through a plug-in. Of course, there's going to be some differences in feel, but ultimately what's in the mix, you can barely tell the difference, if at all. Now, even in solo, it's pretty close. Take a listen to this. You know, even in solo, the differences are negligible and can be attributed maybe to a little bit of an EQ. Now, different amps do have different characteristics, but in the mix, you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference. And if you tell me you can, I might have to question your honesty. Anyways, if you are in the market for a 5150 tone and you're on a budget, you know what? You're going to get some great tones out of the ML Sound Labs Amped block letter plugin. Sounds really, really great. Pretty genuine in my opinion. But I would certainly love your thoughts. Let me know in the comments on this video, on the tones that you heard, and certainly the guesses between the amp and the plugin. Would really like to hear your thoughts on that. Anyways, like I said, in the description, I will put more information to the plugin if you are so interested. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hey, you. Yeah, you. You made it all the way to the end. I'd love to know who you are. Perhaps you can let me know in the comments. I've got another video waiting for you right here if you want to check it out. And if you check the description, there's all sorts of ways to support the channel. Affiliate links, I'm on Patreon, and I've got merch. It's all in the description. And I hope to see you again in another video.